Welcome back, you lovely people, to this Season 14, Episode 13 of the Ubuntu podcast. It's a hot Tuesday night on the 1st of June, and this evening we'll be telling you about community news and events and our picks from the news headlines. And I say our because I'm joined by my good friends, as usual, Alan and Mark. Hello, Alan, how are you?
Hot, hot, hot.
Yes, it is hot, hot, hot. I'm regretting my life choices. And Mark, what about you? How are you?
Scorchio.
Yeah, isn't it?
It's not the kind of day for a cashmere sweater that you're wearing there, Martin.
Well, I'm beginning to wonder if building a Threadripper system in the frigid temperatures of October last winter was wise, as I sit next to it with it puffing hot air all over me at the moment. Anyway, Alan, since we last spoke, what have you been up to?
I have been relearning trigonometry.
Helping your kids with their maths homework?
Nope. This was an entirely personal endeavour. I was doing a bit of personal software development that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago.
I thought so.
And I needed to use trigonometry for a part of a piece of software I'm developing. And I had to go and watch like GCSE level YouTube videos telling me about SOHCAHTOA and, you know, all of that stuff. And I got it figured out, but it was quite interesting, like scraping that information out of my brain, having not used it for a long time.
Fascinating. I found myself in a similar position on the lead up to FOSS Live 19. Mm-hmm. And when I found my math skills in a void of my brain I couldn't access, I got in touch with our good friend Stuart Langridge, who helped refresh my memory.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, it's in there. It's in there. I certainly did it at GCSE level, but it's so deeply buried, you know, with underneath piles of cat pictures and recipes and, you know, other nonsense, film titles and scripts and Monty Python and all that kind of stuff, that it's something that just doesn't bubble up to the top very often. But once I visited a couple of, you know, tutorial YouTube videos, I only needed to watch a couple of minutes. I was like, that's it. Yep, I remember now. It's all there. And then implemented what I needed to in my piece of software. And I was delighted with it. And I was doing a little jig, because I had managed to do some trig 30 years after I had been educated on the subject.
Very good. Mark, have you been relearning trigonometry?
I have not. I have been fixing my phone.
Uh-oh.
Yes. So I managed to drop my phone, which is a OnePlus 5T, and I bent the volume button.
Bent?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I remember you mentioning this. Yeah.
Yeah, so it basically the volume up button got stuck on. So not only did that mean that everything played at maximum volume, it also meant that if I pressed the power button to try and turn my phone off, I took a screenshot.
Nice.
So I ended up having to like faff around and change the settings so that the screen turned off after 30 seconds. Otherwise it stayed on all the time. Anyway, so I actually had to buy a whole new back assembly for the phone because getting the power button is a bit tricky. But it's the first time I've done a phone repair where you have to sort of prise the case open rather than just undoing some screws and it comes apart. I had to like get a suction cup and lever it and put in some guitar picks and wiggle around. But I did manage to get it open, and I did find that it took a lot of sort of poking about and try and work out what was holding everything in, because it's all very precise and fiddly, and bits of stuff hidden under bits of adhesive, and you pick this up and you find that's there and you pull it out and suddenly it comes apart. I did follow a few sort of guides for some of the more dangerous bits where I might have broken things, but there isn't a full here's how to replace the volume button on a OnePlus 5T guide on iFixit or anywhere like that. So I was sort of fumbling around in the dark and looking at the bit I've bought and looking at the bit that's there and trying to work out how to rationalize the two. But I got there in the end.
I wonder how much of a common failure this is that you could make that video yourself on how to fix the volume rocker on a OnePlus 5T and then mint it as an NFT and make loads of money and buy yourself a new phone.
Yeah, maybe not. But also, bonus, if I ever break the back of my phone, I've got a whole new back.
Silver linings. along with those clouds.
Yeah.
Right. With that, let's get on with the rest of the show. So we're going to round up some community news, and the first bit of community news is very community. The Ubuntu On Air YouTube channel has been rebooted. Alan, you probably remember Ubuntu On Air.
Yeah, we used to use it a lot. I even registered a domain. We had ubuntuonair.com, and it was a WordPress instance that had one page on it that we could embed a video in and embed the chat in, because we wanted to make it easier for people to have one URL to go to our on-air sessions. And so people could just go to ubuntuonair.com, and we used it for whatever community-driven activities that needed to be streamed live that people wanted to chat. And this was before YouTube chat was any good, and everyone was already on IRC. So we baked in an IRC channel underneath it. And that worked really well. But, over time, we stopped using it. We've talked about this in previous episodes recently. But Monica and Reese from the community team have rebooted it and have started using it again. Interestingly, both on YouTube and on Twitch. Simulcast, I think
they're
call it.
Simul streaming, yeah. I've watched a few of these now. So the Ubuntu desktop team have done a couple of indabbers, which I think is some sort of African word for meeting or something like that. So that's an opportunity for the desktop team to talk about the things they're working on and to appraise the community and people in the community to ask questions. I saw Reese and Monica did their first community team office hours, which I think is going to be a weekly event, running at different hours each week to accommodate different time zones. But again, an opportunity for people in the community to have a touching point to find out what's going on, or if they've got questions about how to get involved, to get answered. And earlier I watched the Ubuntu on Raspberry Pi stream whilst I was cooking and saw Dave Jones and Reese and somebody I don't know see things moving on Life After Canonical, talking about all things Ubuntu on the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
So as Alan says, you can go to youtube.com/UbuntuOnAir or twitch.tv/UbuntuOnAir and follow and subscribe in those places to get notifications when those events are happening in the future. Mark?
The Snapcrafters community is also being rebooted. So Igor on the Snapcrafters forum has kicked off a discussion about rebooting the Snapcrafters community. Now, I wasn't aware that Snapcrafters needed rebooting. As far as I was aware, it was always sort of rumbling along with people developing snaps and publishing them, or had it gone a bit stale recently?
I think the problem was there were a limited number of people who were focusing their time on it, and both of those two people you're currently looking at. And and we left Canonical. And so I think what they wanted to do is, rather than leave it in the hands of a couple of people, they want to reboot it so that it's more widely distributed. So individual community members can, be responsible for particular applications that they are, most interested in, rather than it being a single point of failure on one person who's responsible for basically all of them.
Interestingly, because to be honest, the way that Snapcrafters was presented gave me the impression that this was the case already. I didn't realise that it was basically the two of you.
It kind of is. It just ended up being, like, if you look at the commit history, there certainly are. I'm not trying to take all the credit for all of the Snapcrafters snaps. They were certainly contributed by a lot of community people. And there would be the odd issue filed and the odd pull request filed. But typically on a daily basis, when there was a new version of Jenkins or Android Studio or Mattermost or whatever, it was usually one of us on the team that triggered the build, tested it, and then pushed it to the stable channel. And I think what they want to do is distribute that load a bit wider so that people get people involved and get more people involved, and even get people building new snaps and put those in Snapcrafters as well, rather than just keep trucking on the ones that are there. You want to get more applications in.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of time has passed since Snapcrafters was originally conceived, and it was sort of an effort to bootstrap community skills in creating snaps. And we didn't want, like, all of the snaps in the store to be random things published by, community endeavor. And we're beyond that now. There's now thousands of snaps in the Snap store. And there is growing interest for people to make and publish snaps for projects that aren't interested in doing it themselves. So I think the other subtle twist here is that the Snapcrafters is going to become sort of an analog to Mutu, which is Masters of the Universe, which is community contributors that create and maintain packages of software. But in this case, snaps instead of devs.
Next up, Launchpad gains comment editing. This is something that was first requested 6 months before the launch of the first iPhone in 2007. And yes, I am using that as a measure of time. And commenters can now edit the comments that they leave in bug reports, for example. You often find people will leave a comment and then they'll realize after the event they've made a mistake. And so they'll leave another comment which corrects the one above. And it's just messy, and it's better if you can edit stuff. And also now enables you to redact stuff that you didn't mean to put in there. You can go in and, yoink something that maybe like host names or IP addresses or something like that you didn't mean to put in there. But also tidy up comments if they look messy. If you've pasted a bunch of text and you thought it would be formatted a particular way and it isn't. And so there's a blog post on the Launchpad blog where they talk about how they added this feature. Slowly, Launchpad is catching up with GitHub.
I can only hope that Markdown formatting is going to be quick on the heels of this one.
Yes, that will come maybe in another 10 years.
Indeed. Now, I read with interest that somebody on the internet wrote a blog post about disabling Snap Auto Refresh. Does anyone know anything about that?
Yeah, that'd be me. Yeah, I wrote a long blog post. It's one that I've had as a set of notes. And I wanted to, and it's notes that have been already published around the place, like on the Snapcraft forum or, in replies to people on Telegram. And I thought, I've got all this information. It's all over the place, and it'd be better if I just put it in one place. So I wrote a blog post, and all it details is the current state of how you can be in control of updates to snaps on your system. So you can defer them, and you can delay when they update, and you can make sure it doesn't update applications you've currently got open and all that kind of good stuff. And it just details how you do all of that. And then it goes one step further where you can completely disable Snapd from updating. And I realize this goes against the original architectural design of Snapd, but it's my computer. I'll do what the hell I want with it. And I choose to build Snapd from source, patching out the automatic update. And that's how I've got it on my system. And that's how I've actually been running it for months now. So yeah, I've tested it. It's well tested, and you can enjoy also not updating any of your applications if you want to.
Controversial. I see you waited till you'd left the company before you posted that particular blog post.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know why you would draw a line between those two things, but yes.
Mark.
Right. Well, I spotted a post on Reddit from a volunteer for an organisation called FossHost. And I feel like we've mentioned FossHost in the past, but basically they are a community interest company based in the UK, and they provide hosting services for open source projects. Essentially, they have servers and people can host stuff on them for free. And it seems like they've basically grown a bit more quickly than they were expecting to, and they're now in a spot of bother. They basically don't have enough money to continue providing the services that they are. So they've put together a sort of a call for support and donations, and with a bit of explanation as to what they do and why. And yeah, they posted that on Reddit. I think it's done the rounds some other places as well.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised at this, and I'm a little surprised that you think we've talked about it before, because I am sure I've never heard of this before in my life.
I'm in the same boat. I was really surprised to learn about this organisation.
And I looked into how long they've existed. They've only existed a year. They've only been around since March last year, which I also found surprising because they've got over 100 projects of like derivatives of Ubuntu and XFCE and a whole bunch of other projects that they're providing services for. Now, it's not immediately clear from their website what services they're providing. I'm sure there's probably archive hosting or mirroring or, homepage hosting or something, or ISO hosting. I don't know what it is. It's not immediately clear because all of the brand names just link to the homepage of each of those places. And if I do a DNS lookup, it looks like they're all hosting all over the place. It doesn't look like they're being hosted by FOSS hosts. So I'm not entirely sure what service exactly they're providing. And that would make me a bit question a little bit about throwing money in their direction. But it seems like if all those brand names are correct, then it seems like they're doing good work hosting stuff for open source projects. And so, yeah, maybe should throw a bit of money their way.
Alan, what else did you find?
Gaming on Linux picked up the news that Entroware have launched a new desktop PC. Yeah, not a laptop, but a desktop.
How exciting.
Yes, they come with lots of options. There's 3 different processor options, i5, 7 and 9. RAM starts at 8 gig, goes all the way up to 128 gig. You can get a 250 gig PCI NVMe SSD all the way up to 16 terabytes of storage. So, it's quite configurable. And there's all kinds of other bits and bobs you can add, like, external displays and all that kind of stuff. But the base model, 8 gig i5 with a 250 gig drive, is 760 quid for a desktop PC. And obviously it goes up into the thousands of pounds if you add, if you go ludicrous mode with all the RAM and the storage. And they're quite nice looking desktop PC. It's nice to see a Linux friendly vendor that we know in the UK providing not just laptops but desktops, because some of us, now that some people are working from home and they're not traveling so much, so maybe they don't need a laptop. Maybe actually having a desktop is the new laptop, and having one of those on your desk is perfectly normal.
Yeah, I mean, because of world events, just this week, Computex has started, and the likes of AMD, Intel, and Nvidia are talking about, this resurgence in interest in PCs. And that's because I think a lot of people have been getting by with laptops for so long, and they don't actually have, like, current day PC hardware, in the home that they need for either home working or home learning. It must be a challenge for Entroware to, get this gear together, because there's all sorts of component shortages. And you mentioned this is a desktop, but they also announced the Prometheus laptop, a new laptop that they're doing as well. Anyway, Mike and Anthony at Entroware, your people have got our digits. Give us a call. Let's have a chat. And we have one event, and it may sound familiar. The event is FOSStalk Live 2021. So if you head to fosstalk.com, that is an online event taking place on the 12th of June, and all your favourite podcasts will be streaming some live shows to that there YouTube. Right, that's all for the community news this week. And now it's time for some news from the wider tech world. So, Alan.
As predicted last time, the Freenode drama is continuing.
You say continuing?
Well, so in short, Andrew Lee, ex-Private Internet Access and Shells.com, took over Freenode. Volunteer staff had a mutiny, and they started LiberaChat. Freenode admins started taking over the closed and abandoned channels on their network and redirecting them to other open channels. It's all got horribly messy, and it's very long and convoluted. And I thoroughly recommend, if you want to hear a really good breakdown of what actually happened, a good timeline, with plenty of detail, listen to episode 40 of 2.5 Admins. Jim does a really great full-length summary. It's if you're interested in the minutiae of IRC-based drama, then,
And who isn't?
it's worth a listen, yeah.
Yeah, I think this falls into the category of fascinating drama, irrespective of the fact that it has anything to do with IRC. There's a very interesting sequence of events here. It's a sad and sorrowful story. There's plenty to be learned from it. A lot of people have not covered themselves in glory in the process. And I think it's definitely something that people should educate themselves about for the purposes of using history to educate us as to not make these mistakes in the future. Because, 2 weeks on, it's been a bit of a roller coaster.
As spectators, we can look at this car crash. I'm not sure we will learn anything from it. I think there will be more car crashes in the future. It's worth having a look though, as we go through. A lot of projects have moved off of Freenode, and I find it interesting that basically every project I know that I deal with is now on Libera, and today I dropped my own account on Freenode. So if there's a Popey on Freenode, it ain't me. And I find it interesting that the people who are now running Freenode are talking up Freenode as, no, it's fine. We've still got tons of users, and there's loads of projects that are still here. Someone's made an interesting dashboard to show this. I think it's called isfreenodeadyet.com.
I think you're right.
And it shows a couple of graphs showing the number of users. Now, that's not the only metric for how you determine health of an IRC network. There's also, number of servers and number of projects and number of channels and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of that is graphed there as well. So, you can see, slice and dice it any which way you like. But it seems like a lot of people are moving.
Yeah. It's interesting, Freenode trying to claim that, they're still significant and, the largest network. But by any measure of large, by internet standards today, it's a pitiful number of people that are or were using Freenode or stroke IRC in general. These are not bragging rights numbers by any stretch. And when you consider that the largest IRC communities have all upped and left Freenode, I think most of the people that are going to be left idling in Freenode were never active and are just idling in channels and don't even know that any of this has been going on.
There'll be people who are away from their keyboard and they just have no idea about the Freenode drama, and they arrive and half their friends are gone and the channel name's changed. And what's going on here?
Yeah.
What happened? Well, sit down. Let me tell you a story.
There was one development that particularly caught my attention, which is that the Quassel IRC client, because basically the Freenode policy changed, which meant that you weren't allowed to say that your channel was now hosted on another network. They then took the step of changing the client so that if it noticed you were connected to Freenode, it flashed up a message and saying, by the way, lots of people aren't on here anymore and here's why. And I saw someone respond to their tweet on Twitter saying, I had no idea any of this was going on until I saw this message in your client.
And even that Freenode policy was being inconsistently implemented because they were only fiddling with channels that mentioned Libera chat, but they weren't touching channels that said we're moving to OFTC, for example.
Right.
Anyway, it was a
horrible.
big sorry story. Apparently, there are some of us still using IRC, and we're fine now. We've got a new home. And Ubuntu and all of its channels are now on libera.chat. Anyway, I saw that Valve is allegedly making a Switch-like portable gaming device.
Ooh.
I know. So, somebody called Pavel Junchek, I apologize if I've butchered your name, I probably have, but they're the creator of SteamDB, and they keep tabs on the updates that Steam publish for the Steam client, and they do things like string analysis to see what they can learn about what upcoming features might be coming along, and they started to spot some things referring to a Neptune controller and Steam PAL games and Neptune optimized games. And this follows Gabe Newell making some comments at a panel session recently where he was asked about Steam on consoles and said, you'll get a better idea of that by the end of this year. Anyway, turns out speculation is abound, and the Steam PAL handheld console is well and truly in the rumour mill.
So the theory goes that this thing will be running Linux, thus Proton, if it wants to support more than some games. And I imagine it's going to be a Switch-like experience because Nintendo have already knocked it out the park with the way in which you have a handheld device which can dock and have removable, controllers. There's plenty of other people who've tried to make these kind of devices where the controllers are welded on the side and, attached to the screen. But the flexibility of being able to slam the switch into a dock and then pull the controller off and use it like a normal controller or pair additional controllers. They seem to have nailed that. So Valve are going to have to do either a copycat of that or something really super innovative in order to come close to that experience, because the Switch experience seems really good to me. And I'll be interested to know if they can pull that off in something that's going to have PC-like hardware. Is this thing going to have a decently spec'd PC processor and GPU? Who knows?
Well, that's what I was wondering about, because, last week we were, episode, a couple of episodes ago, whenever it was, sometime in the past, we were talking about a GPD device, which was a sort of Switch-like form factor, which was trying to be, a fairly full-bore gaming device and had the price point to match. Now, I kind of got wondering if, we're talking about it's going to be running Linux. Is this going to be primarily targeted at streaming games, or is it going to be designed to run games? Perhaps it'll be designed to run some games, but higher spec games, it'll be aimed at streaming either from another Steam box or from a service.
So I think you make a good point. I've obviously done some work with GPD because I've been enabling their devices with Ubuntu Mate for some years now, including their gaming orientated devices. And I think a lot of people have seen this news about the Steam PAL, and here comes a massive speculation, and assumed this is going to be an x86 PC. And it could well be. But the problem is the power budget for those devices means that you don't get particularly high-end graphics, and the battery endurance is not the best. So it's not great for mobile gaming. And also here we see this mention of Neptune optimized games. So I don't think this is going to be like a portable Steam device, as in all of Steam. Apart from anything, the embedded chipsets from Intel and AMD simply don't provide the kind of VRAM. There isn't VRAM, it's, system memory, but they don't provide the capacity of VRAM to run modern titles. So I think this is going to be like a platform with a curated, validated set of apps that are designed to run on it. And I think you're right, Mark. I think the shortfall in what you can run on the device as a locally installed game will be supplemented through what Steam have done with things like Steam Link. Mm-hmm. And also the Steam Link works through licensed NVIDIA technology. And Steam are already providing a catalogue of games through GeForce Now. And I wonder if that will be like a rebadged platform to get to the games you can't run locally via streaming services.
It strikes me, the name gives it away. Being called Steam PAL, it's a thing that goes with your Steam system. So it feels to me like this could use those technologies to stream from your PC, but also stream from the cloud as well, and have like Xbox Cloud, like Stadia style experience for, like you say, for the big fat games, or stream from your local PC. But my worry there is, what do you get if you're not at home and you're out with this thing? Can you play native Linux games like Mini Metro or simple 2D games that don't have the huge power requirements? But even then, they still run the GPU quite hard, and you still, like you say, don't have the battery endurance.
Right. And so What I'm thinking is they could surprise us all. There are Qualcomm ARM-based SoCs that have x86 instruction translation. It could be this is an ARM device and they run those legacy or classic PC titles using instruction set, translation. And it's not a PC at all.
One thing I'm going to be really interested to see is what the controller's like. As a big fan of the Steam controller, I'm wondering if they're going to make some of that in a smaller form factor, or if it's going to be something completely different.
And Mark?
Mozilla have announced MDN Plus. So MDN is the Mozilla Developer Network, and it's the go-to resource for if you're writing some code for a website and you can't quite remember what that CSS property is called, or the arguments for that JavaScript function. It's basically the reference guide for web APIs and web development. And this is a new subscription paid-for service which they've announced to offer constantly updated guides on highly requested topics and deep dives each month. So basically trying to offer some premium content alongside the long-standing free documentation.
Who's going to pay for this?
This is what I was wondering. I'm wondering whether this is meant to be targeted at individuals, or if it's going to be pitched more as sort of a corporate training budget purchase. Because if you work at a big organization which uses some Microsoft software, they've probably bought Microsoft Developer Network subscriptions for all of their developers. So I'm wondering if this is going to be pitched at that sort of thing. Your developers rely on MDN, so why not pay for the premium stuff and keep it going? Yeah, we'll see how that pans out.
Interesting. Well, that is all the news that was in the news this week. And indeed, that's all for episode 13. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week when we're going to be sharing our top 10 favourite Linux apps, so get tuned in for that. We'll also have some command line love, and we'll be going over all your wonderful feedback. If you have wonderful feedback, like what do you think of the Steam Pal, then let us know at show@ubuntupodcast.org. Or if you demand immediate attention, let us know at ubuntupodcast.org/Telegram, where you can join over 1,000 like-minded individuals with a passion for Ubuntu and tech. And thank you to Joe Ressington for editing our shows. Please help support our production costs by visiting ubuntupodcast.org/donate.